All right, hello and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today for our pre-arrival webinar for exchange students. We are so lucky to have so many great colleagues gathered in one place today. So hello, my name is Grace Fuller. I serve as the Manager of Student Experience and Engagement at the International Students and Programs Office. And I'll hand it over to my colleagues. We'll just go down the line and introduce ourselves here.
Okay, hi everyone. Good morning. My name is Argeria Williams, and I am an International Student Advisor here at ISPO.
Hello everyone, I'm Kaylin Clifford and I work in the Registrar's Office in the Enrollment Services Department, and my formal title is Assistant Residence Deputy, but I also help out in other places in the office, including with EAPR and EAP students.
Hi everybody, my name is Pachia Vu and I'm the Undergraduate Student Accounts Manager over at Housing, Dining, Hospitality.
Good morning everyone, my name is Damian Ruiz. I'm the Basic Needs Housing and Education Coordinator, but I also oversee a lot of the off-campus housing things that we do outside of the Basic Needs Center on campus.
Great, so as you can see, we have a lot of different folks from different places on campus. So we're hoping to get as many questions as you have answered today. But a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. So you are in listen only mode, which means you can hear us, but unfortunately we cannot hear you. So as much as possible, we encourage you to submit any questions you may have through our Q&A feature. If for some reason we don't get to your questions today, you can also reach out to us via icontact.ucsd.edu. And finally, we are recording. So if you ever want to refer back to this webinar and the information covered here, you can do so at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. This is just a visual reminder of what that Q&A feature looks like. So like I said, we'll have different presentations from our different colleagues here today. And you are welcome to submit questions throughout the presentation. Let's say you have a follow-up question, you would like more clarity, but we will dedicate our time at the end for an open question and answer session. So we'll wait until the end to probably answer most of those questions. So this is a little bit about our agenda for today. So first we'll do an introduction of the International Students and Programs Office, like I said, commonly referred to as ISPO. Then we'll talk a little bit about steps for how to apply for your DS 2019. We'll have a presentation regarding enrollment, housing, getting involved, and then our time at the end for that open question and answer to hopefully answer as many questions as you have. All right, so let's get started. So who is ISPO? ISPO at UC San Diego is your one-stop shop for all services and programs for international students. ISPO provides immigration advising as well as advising on non-immigration topics to help you understand how to best navigate your program and succeed here throughout your journey. We hope that you'll come visit us. We are offering Zoom advising appointments, and we have 21 friendly faces ready to help answer your questions. But aside from advising and issuing immigration documents, such as your DS 2019, we also offer events and workshops to support the successful transition of students to campus and UC San Diego student life, as well as to enrich the academic, research, and intercultural experiences of all students at UC San Diego. ISPO is here along with the entire campus community to offer you a heartfelt welcome to UC San Diego. With the campus returning to primarily in-person instruction this fall, we are eager to welcome our students and make you feel a part of the Triton community from the very beginning. We like to think of ISPO as your home away from home for a little while, a place where you can meet other students from around the world, learn from one another, explore your interests, and above all, feel welcome and comfortable here. ISPO plans to extend the very same warm welcome that we have been doing so for years, for many of our students, as you can see here. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Argeria to talk about some of your first steps.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace. Let me just pull this up and we can discuss this. Alrighty. So first off, I'd like to refer you to our useful website for newly admitted international students. Here you can find important information about requesting your immigration documents and preparing for your arrival. It is very likely that if you have questions about how to request your immigration documents, you will be able to find answers here on our website at inewstudent.ucsd.edu. We also have a new feature on our website where you can ask Triton and you may be able to get immediate answers to your questions. I encourage you to try it. After you accept your admission, you will need to wait 24 hours, after which you can begin your new I-20 or DS-2019 request by going to iportal.ucsd.edu. iPortal is the system that you will use to request and receive your immigration documents.
All right, now let's go over how to obtain your J-1 visa for your studies here at UC San Diego. As an international exchange student, you may have your CVIS form DS-2019 to apply for your J-1 visa. This can be requested using ISPO's iPortal system. Once you have your UCSD PID and password setup, and these instructions for your PID and password setup are available on inewstudent.ucsd.edu, you will be able to log into the iPortal to request your DS-2019. All EAP students will receive the form DS-2019 with a September 20th, 21 start date. Note that the processing time for a DS-2019 document is 15 business days, so please apply now. Once you receive your form DS-2019, you may book your appointment at your local United States Embassy, if available, to obtain your visa stamp and your passport for entry into the United States. This is what the form DS-2019 looks like. Note that when applying for a J-1 visa, you will need to have a hard copy of your DS-2019. It cannot be an electronic copy. And the iPortal application will ask you for your mailing preference so you can receive this hard copy. Note that students are responsible for the shipping costs associated with sending your DS-2019 document to you. And with that, I'll hand it over to our colleagues in enrollment.
Thanks, Grace. You can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, so fall enrollment is well underway, as you're aware. You are currently within your scheduled second pass enrollment appointment time, which is going to end on August 5th at 11:59 p.m. So after your second pass enrollment appointment ends, you will not be able to make changes to your enrollment until August 25th. So there's actually a break period between August 6th and August 24th, where enrollment for continuing students will close. And so what's going to happen during that August 6th and August 24th period is that new incoming students, freshmen and transfers, are going to be able to enroll in courses. So we kind of reserve that little time slot for those students to add courses so that the system isn't overloaded. So from the period between August 6th and August 24th, you won't be able to add courses, but don't worry, it'll reopen on August 25th and you'll be able to make changes to your schedule again. One important note about enrollment is to make note of the deadlines listed on the 2021-2022 enrollment and registration calendar. So if you click the link that's on the slide there, a whole page will come up with important deadlines. So that's going to be when's the last day to add classes, when's the last day to drop courses, when's the last day to change your grading options. So if you want to change from a letter grading option to pass, no pass, there's a deadline for that. There's a deadline to change units. So some courses will have variable units. And you'll want to make note of those deadlines because those deadlines are hard deadlines. And unfortunately, if you miss the deadline and you don't complete out whatever that change was by that time, you won't be able to. Another important note is that all times on the calendar are Pacific Standard Time. So we've had students contact us in the past where they say, today's supposed to be the deadline to change to pass, no pass. And I'm not seeing the option, it's closed down already. Make sure your computer's set in Pacific Standard Time, because if you're set in a time zone that's ahead, you won't see the ability to change your grading option if you're hours ahead and that's already closed on your computer based on your time zone. So just setting your time zone to Pacific Standard, it should open back up and it should match the deadline that's listed in the calendar. Okay, Grace, you can move on to the next one. So one other important thing to note as an incoming EAP student is that some courses may have prerequisites and restrictions. And this is important to note, especially for your group, because we don't have access to your academic history. So what that means is, even if you took a course that was similar to a course we have here at UCSD, we're not necessarily going to have that in our system. So the system is not going to recognize that you've taken a comparable course, and it's still going to say that you haven't met the prerequisites. So the workaround for this issue is called the EASY system. That's what we call it, EASY, and it stands for the Enrollment Authorization System. So this is going to be the system you're going to submit requests for to bypass prerequisites or course restrictions. So prerequisites would mean, for example, if the course BILD2 requires the completion of BILD1, that's a prerequisite, right? So BILD1 is a prerequisite for BILD2. If you haven't taken BILD1, you're going to need to request a pre-authorization to enroll in that course to bypass the prerequisite requirement. Alternatively, there's course restrictions. So for instance, say a course is open to senior standing students only, and you don't have senior standing in our system. Like I mentioned, we don't have access to your academic history. So even if you are a senior on your campus, our system is not going to know that. So you'll want to request to bypass those restrictions on the courses as well. So the system is expecting for students to have met all prerequisites and course restrictions when enrolling in courses. And if you don't have that requirement, you are going to have to use the EASY system. So you can view course prerequisite and restriction information in the schedule of classes on Triton Link and also in the UC San Diego general catalog. Okay, and I think that's it for the enrollment piece. Those are really the two biggest things, to just be aware of deadlines and then be aware that there's the EASY system that you may need to use to gain authorization to enroll in courses.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about on-campus housing options. Next slide, please. So for our students who are in need of summer housing, we do have summer housing programs available to you. We have two programs specifically. The first is our traditional summer housing program. So this is for our incoming students who are enrolled in a class here at UC San Diego. The cost is $67 a night for a single occupancy bedroom. That means one student in the bedroom. In a shared apartment, which has a common area, kitchen, a bathroom. It also includes weekly custodial service provided in the common area and the kitchen and the bathroom. This also includes a dining plan. The application is available right now, so if you are interested, please head over to our website and submit an application there. We also have more information about the program at the link on the bottom of this page. Next slide, please. Now, our second summer housing program is called short-term transition housing. So this program is available June 18th through September 4th and is really for our students who may need a little bit more flexible housing accommodations. All of our incoming students who have accepted their offer of admissions are eligible. The cost is $51 a night for a single occupancy bedroom, again, in a shared apartment. It does include weekly custodial service, but this program does not have dining. The application is available right now, and the link is available at the bottom of this page. Next slide, please. Now, if you are needing housing for the next academic year, I wanted to highlight our International House program, what we call iHouse. It really is a wonderful living learning community that brings together our international students, our US students, and scholars from all over the world. This community really just fosters a diversity of thought and experience where students can learn from each other and develop their skills and really grow as global citizens. So all of our newly admitted incoming EAP, our students who have accepted their offer of admissions can apply to live at iHouse. The application will open on June 24th and will be due on July 6th. So after that, students will be emailed with further instructions regarding how to sign your contract and how to submit your $450 housing prepayment. Now, if you are a student that may not be able to make that 450 housing prepayment, please just reach out to our office and we'd be happy to help you through it. So if you want to learn more about iHouse and or if you want to apply once it opens on the 24th, please go ahead and visit that link below at ihouse.ucsd.edu. Next slide, please. Now, another option that's available to you for fall quarter is our fall quarter housing waitlist. Now, this waitlist is going to be available at the end of June. Our waitlist students are traditionally placed wherever we have space available on campus in any of our undergrad housing communities. I did want to point out, though, that submitting an application does not guarantee you a space on campus. It's really going to depend on what we have available. But we will be touching base with you and working with you throughout the summer just to let you know what that looks like. So if you are planning to apply for the waitlist, we do recommend that you have a backup plan and look into off-campus housing options, which we're going to go into in a couple of slides. Once available, the housing waitlist application can be found at this link at the bottom of the page. I also wanted to highlight that we've got some of our price points on the right-hand side of this page. We have two different facility types on campus. We have res hall rooms, which are our traditional dorms, and then we have apartment spaces. And your cost for housing is going to be based on the facility type. It's also going to be based on the room type that you're in, whether it's a single occupancy room or a double occupancy meaning two people in a bedroom, and the dining plan that you select. And if you note here on the page, there are two dining plans to select from. So all of those combined gives you your academic year housing package cost. And next slide, please. And I know we went over a lot of information really quick, but if you have any questions about on-campus housing, wanted to list our phone number as well as our email address here on this page, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you.
All right, and that's me next. Good morning again, everyone. As I mentioned, my name is Damian Ruiz. I am the Basic Needs Housing and Education Coordinator, but I also work with a lot of off-campus housing initiatives here on our campus. And today I'm going to talk to you about some of the options that you have for living off-campus, some of the properties that we highlight, but more than anything, I want to go into the process of looking for housing in itself, what to expect once you are here if you're looking for housing off-campus, and maybe some things to look out for as well. Yeah, that's okay. Next step. So the first thing you want to do when you're looking for housing is think about what it is that you're looking for off campus. I know that sounds obvious, but some things to think about are you looking for a room on your own? Are you looking for a private apartment on your own? Or maybe you're looking to share with somebody. It's important to think about what your price range is and what it is that you can actually afford in order to move into a place. And what are you looking for in terms of distance from campus? Do you want to be fairly close? Are you going to have your own transportation once you are here? And if so, how do you want to plan for that? San Diego is a city that does have traffic at certain times of the day, so that's something to take into account. Or are you going to be relying on public transportation and having to plan for that? It's important to just think about all of those things before you make your decision on where you're going to be moving, so that you're set up in the best place and in the best situation for you to be successful and for you to be happy with where you live. And it's important also to think about how important is each of these factors. So is it really important to you that you are on your own, or is it really important for you to have a roommate experience? Is it important to be with specific roommates? All of these things are important to think about before you move into a place. Next slide, please. So at the end here of the slides guiding you to on the process of finding off-campus housing, we'll cover really quickly, I'll say just for the sake of time, some of the properties and apartment complexes that are near campus. Next slide, please. So some of the off-campus housing resources that I want to start with really quick are two that you see pictured here. First is the off-campus housing website. We will go into that shortly, as well as ISPO's housing resources for off-campus. You can find a variety of things on here. I definitely recommend that you visit both, depending on where you are in your search process, but it's always important to look at both. There's plenty of information here that should help you think about anything from search platforms to your rights as a tenant once you are living here. Next slide, please. So I have a little bit of a different order, but no problem at all. The first thing I want to talk about, and it's good that we have it in this order anyway, is Craigslist. I know it's very common. It's probably something you've heard about before. Craigslist is a platform that's used for all sorts of things. And one of those things is usually housing. It's a very active platform. It's updated almost hourly. I would say that you can see new things being posted on this website, especially when it comes to housing. One thing I will mention, it's a public website. Anyone can post on there. Posts go on and up all the time. So it's important to think about what things are looking like in a posting itself. I always like to say that if it's too good to be true, it is. There's no such thing as hidden gems of extremely things that you've never seen before in terms of a price. If something's posted as a price half of the price of what everything else seems to be, or something is hundreds of dollars below what usually is posted with way more accommodations, that's probably a scam. I wouldn't bother. I would say don't really go for those listings. I know we have more information later on scams, but it's important to start with this website just because it is very active. There are real postings on there that may be adequate, but I would suggest that maybe you don't start there. Go through the other resources we'll cover, and then maybe if you want additional options, once you're a little bit more prepared, you go to Craigslist. Next slide, please. What I do want to highlight is the off-campus housing website. So I mentioned it just briefly when we began, offcampushousing.ucsd.edu. The reason I want to start here is because this is a UCSD managed property listing website, meaning the listings that are on here have all been, we've been contacted by the listers. We usually have a vetting process, which makes it a little bit safer. Of course, there could be always things that should not end up on the website, but we do a pretty good job of managing that no scammers are able to get through. Usually, if anyone like that is identified, they're taken down promptly. So I recommend starting here for your housing search. Most of the listings that you will find are close to campus and are used to working with students, especially for international students. This is something that's important because your credit history, your bank statements, your income requirements, all of that may look different than someone who is living here. And most of the listings here are used to working with students. You will require your login credentials to be able to access the website. And we have a roommate section as well, where you can connect with other UCSD students looking for housing. Next slide, please. One of the public platforms that I do want to mention is PadMapper. So PadMapper is a public property listing website. It's pretty effective in letting you know where you are in terms of your relationship to campus. So once you type in that you want to live in San Diego, it'll give you a variety of listings. As you can see there are those little red pinpoints. It's important that you have this map because you'll be able to click, see where campus is, and in relationship to campus, what your options are. Once you click on a listing or on a little dot, you'll be able to see the contact information, the price, the requirements, and anything else you may need to know in order to contact whoever listed the property. There's also room rentals here, so it's a good platform to look. Again, that rule that if it's too good to be true, it probably is, but you'll be able to get a good idea by comparing to other listings in terms of pricing and amenities, so you can get a general idea of what's available. Next slide, please. I also want to mention Spare Room. Spare Room is a public roommate searching website. So if you're on a tighter budget and you want to have more flexible options, this is a good place to go. You'll find you'll find some listings begin as low as $500 a month, which is very unique for San Diego. It is not so common to start so low, but in this website, you'll find arrangements that work in this way. Of course, this is a public website, so be careful when contacting the people that have posted here. But one good thing is that the information here is very thorough. The people that are posting their search for a roommate have very specific things that they're looking for in a roommate, which will be likely posted. But of course, it's a public website. It's pretty safe, but exercise caution when contacting potential roommates. Again, when things look too good to be true, or there's a specific request a roommate may have that you don't feel comfortable with, of course, skip that. But as I mentioned, it's a pretty safe website. It's a good place to go for looking for roommates that is just not specific only to UCSD, which opens up your options a little bit. Next slide, please. So once you've identified what you want and what you're looking for, the next step will be to contact the leasing office and ask questions. It's important to know where the complex is, the pricing, the availability of the listing that you're contacting. Sometimes it could be that San Diego is a pretty competitive housing market. So sometimes you may contact them and find out that the listing is actually not available anymore. That's fine. You'll find plenty of options, but it is important to move fairly quickly and contact places as soon as possible. It's important also to contact and find out about the process in terms of payments. Usually you can expect to pay an application fee, but those go between $25 and $50. Anything more than that, I would be cautious. Usually those payments are not expected to apply for a place. It's important also to think about your timeline. If you're going to be living off campus, the time to start looking is now, because you always want to leave yourself plenty of time to be able to look for housing. Be sure to keep in contact, especially when it comes to deadlines for their applications. Next slide, please. So some things to think about now that you're moving forward is management. Management in every complex is a little bit different. You may have to think about your transportation routes. It is common for apartments to have fairly thin walls. So if you can visit an apartment complex beforehand or get a virtual tour or something like that, it's important so that you can be ready. You want to know about what sort of amenities you'll be getting with each complex or home if you do end up renting a home, and who you plan on living with. Have conversations with people before you move in with them if you're going to be having roommates about what's important to you. Next slide, please. So again, be honest about your conversations if you're going to have roommates. You want to think about what sort of things you're comfortable with, when the payments are due. Are you okay with overnight guests or guests in general? What responsibilities does everyone have in the home? What sort of noise level you want in your living environment. If you are living with roommates, who is responsible for cleaning what? And of course, COVID is still around, so it's something to cover that's important if you want to have certain conversations before you move in for COVID precautions. Next slide, please. So now we'll highlight some properties really quickly. Just for the sake of time, I'll move really quick through these. More than anything, I just want the names to be something you're familiar with, so that when you see them, you remember, oh, this is close to campus. So we have La Jolla International Gardens. It's pretty close to campus. It's about 1 mile away. You have access to a variety of amenities. Please be sure to check them in your own time. Again, there are pricing requirements that will vary. Please make sure you take note of those. Next slide, please. La Jolla Crossroads is another one that's very common in terms of students living here in San Diego. Again, I invite you to visit these at your own time. They have a website and they list the amenities that they have. Next one, please. Regents at La Jolla, another one that's close to campus. There are bus stops that are friendly. It's pet friendly. So it's something that's not too common here in San Diego. You'll find that most apartment complexes have pet requirements. So if you're bringing a pet with you or you want to have a pet, it's something to consider. Next slide, please. La Jolla Villas of Renaissance, again, another one that's common here. I invite you to check it out. Usually we have postings of them on our off-campus housing website, but they have their own postings as well. You may see them pop up in the websites that I mentioned. Next one, please. And the last one I'm going over here really quickly is Solazo. It's very close to campus in under a mile. It's close to a bus stop, and it has a variety of amenities that may be something that you're looking for. Again, you have plenty of options. Just exercise caution and be mindful of your timeline. I think that's it for my time. I'll pass it on to my colleagues now.
All right, thank you so much, Damian. So a little bit of just other resources we want to highlight for you. So UC San Diego has a number of commuter resources that we just want to make sure our students are aware of. So if you do decide to live off campus, you also have resources in terms of like commuter lounges. Let's say you plan on being on campus for the day. There are like microwaves to heat up any meals you might have brought with you. So I would go through and kind of see everything that's available to you. I just dropped the link in the chat, but just to know that there are a number of commuter resources available for our students who do live off campus. Additionally, like Damian mentioned, we just want to make sure that our students are aware of potential housing scams as much as possible. Obviously, we want our students to live in safe accommodations, but unfortunately, there are folks who try to take advantage. And so isafety.ucsd.edu is a great resource in terms of kind of red flags to watch out for. Something that's actually really incredible is that our Student Legal Services Department, so that is a legal department on campus that specifically serves students for free, which is incredible, will actually read over, let's say, a housing lease for you. And you can meet with them to discuss some of your rights and responsibilities as a tenant. So I would say this is a resource that is not common. It's actually this is a great opportunity. So if you are looking at an off-campus housing lease and maybe something comes across, or maybe you're just unfamiliar in general with leases in the US, Student Legal Services is a great resource for you. And then another program I'd like to highlight is the Solana Beach Homestay. So we have been working with the Solana Beach host families for a number of years. Our office has ISPO. And these are essentially American families who volunteer to help newly arriving international students transition. So let's say you are coming a little bit early before your program starts to get set up, and your move-in date isn't until, I don't know, like September 19th, but you're arriving September 6th. You can potentially sign up for the Solana Beach Homestay program and be able to stay with an American host family, learn a bit about American culture, familiarize with UC San Diego, familiarize yourself with San Diego before starting your program at UC San Diego. So this is a great resource if you're interested, and I encourage you to check it out. I also just want to highlight some resources to get involved. Usually our exchange students are very involved during their time here at UC San Diego. It's great because I think that because typically our exchange students are here for a shorter amount of time, they want to do everything, like they want to make the most of everything. And so we have a few things that I want to highlight. So first off is our iEvents calendar. And our iEvents calendar is a virtual live calendar that's continually being updated with things that are happening on campus. And a lot of these events are focused on global engagement. So a lot of students will bookmark this tab and just kind of whenever they're like, I wonder what's going on this weekend, or I wonder what's going on this week, they'll check our iEvents calendar, and that's a great way to sort of see kind of what's happening. Another thing I want to highlight, and I'll go ahead and put this in the chat right now, is iprograms.ucsd.edu. So these are some of our signature events and our signature programs. But one of our signature programs is actually a collaboration with Outdoor Recreation. It's called Triton Trekkers, and it's trips that we take students to around San Diego to like explore the area. So if you want to kayak the cove or learn how to surf, these are trips that we'll design specifically for international students to get out and explore their new home away from home. So this is a great resource that I encourage a lot of our students to check out. All right, a couple additional resources before we head into our Q&A. So we are aware that COVID-19 has obviously impacted the ability for many of our students to secure visa appointments and to make travel arrangements to the US. If you are unable to secure a visa appointment due to limited availability, or you're impacted by the various travel restrictions, please keep ISPO as well as the system-wide UC EAP office in the know. Additionally, ISPO's coronavirus resources page, as well as iupdates.ucsd.edu is a great resource for you to kind of see the most up-to-date information in terms of immigration policy updates and updates related to fall 2021 and how those might specifically impact our international students. And then additionally, Return to Learn is our campus-wide website in regards to COVID-19 and our response. So it's UC San Diego's official website where you can find information about the campus efforts to return to in-person teaching and learning in the safest way possible. This is a great resource to share with family members as well. The site furthermore covers everything from vaccine information, like what vaccines are approved, what vaccines are required, to daily symptom screening, to instructional plans for the fall. So it's also being continuously updated. It has like quarantine information, a lot of really helpful stuff. So I've gone ahead and dropped that link in the chat. All right, this is quite the list of useful links, but we do find that a lot of our students reference these links. So yes, we encourage you to bookmark some of these resources and refer back to them often for updates on travel, visa appointment availability, wait times, country-specific travel restrictions, and more. Please know that we will be sharing this recording on our website at iwebinars.ucsd.edu, and feel free to open those links during the presentation now, and then you can kind of see which ones might be the most relevant for you. Okay, here are some important deadlines and reminders before we go into our open Q&A session. So there's a number of things that you can start doing now. So we would say, if you haven't already done so, begin requesting your visa immigration documents via the iPortal. So iportal.ucsd.edu is how you would request your DS 2019 immigration form. We also encourage you to start checking out housing options. So we've covered a number of on-campus as well as off-campus housing resources during today's webinar. But again, in some ways, it's not too early to start kind of checking out what might be available to you. Additionally, we encourage you to complete the iTriton online training on Canvas. You should have received an invite to that course already. If you haven't, feel free to reach out to iNewStudent@ucsd.edu if you haven't been able to log into your iTriton Canvas course. But this is a great resource. It covers a lot of really good information, and students say that it's one of the most helpful resources in their transition to UC San Diego and answered a lot of their questions. So if you haven't done so, would definitely encourage you to complete the iTriton training. Finally, you'll also want to make sure that you're completing our health screening and immunization form. I can go ahead and put that in the chat, but that is going to be very important as you begin your journey at UC San Diego. And then we are so excited to welcome our students in September for our new International Student Orientation. Some of those details are still being worked out right now, but in general, you can find updates at iorientation.ucsd.edu. Okay, so I know we covered a lot of information, but we really wanted to make sure that you had as many resources, you knew about so many resources that are available to you. And I can see that we've had a number of really good questions come through the chat right now. So I'm just going to go over some of them. I can see that we have a few housing questions for sure. So Pachia, I'll probably start with you. So one of our questions that's come through is a student would like to know if iHouse is available if a student is only here for a semester exchange.
So yes, so when you go in and you fill out your iHouse application, you traditionally our contracts are for the entire academic year, but for iHouse, when you go in, you fill out your application, there is a question on there that is going to ask if you're needing housing for the entire academic year, or if maybe you're just needing it for fall or maybe fall or winter. So just make sure that you indicate that when you apply for iHouse.
Thank you so much. I see another question here that's asking about, hi, I heard from a former exchange student that UC San Diego provides free bus passes to their students. Is that still the case? And I will go ahead and drop this link in the chat. But there is something called the U-Pass at UC San Diego that's offer transit on both our UC San Diego shuttles as well as our public shuttles like the MTS bus system. So that link should take you to learn more about the U-Pass system. All right. Okay, so Damian, we have a question about off-campus housing. So this question reads, so I've checked sites and prices, and they're often quoted in per unit. What exactly does per unit mean? Is this just what I would pay to stay at the location, or what myself and my roommates would pay?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I would say for a lot of the questions that I get, I always give the answer, it depends. But that's the most honest I can be and most transparent in a way that's helpful to you. So usually what happens is that when someone posts on a property listing website, they'll have a checklist. So imagine a form, and they'll fill out their form for their unit. Sometimes they may be referring to both. It could be that they've checked that their unit costs, let's say $800, and they're referring to a room only. And other times they check unit as well. And it could be that they're referring to the whole apartment. So you would expect anything like that to be at the very least over $1,200, or at the very, very least, depending on where you go in San Diego, you may find something for $1,200. But again, it depends on the accommodation. I would try to look at all of the information in the posting, and the property managers and landlords in San Diego are very responsive just because they're used to receiving a number of questions and calls, emails. So the best way you'll find out that information for exactly what that posting meant is by contacting the property manager or the landlord or the apartment complex, depending on who posted it. But again, usually that refers to a unit as a whole, as the apartment and the room and the bathroom. But I would just double check to make sure that you don't think you're coming into this awesome suite and you end up being in a shared room. It's better to find out the most information that you can before you move in anywhere.
Thank you. All right, Argeria, we have a question regarding the J1 visa. So the student would like to know, do we need to put a place of residence for applying for the J1 visa?
Yes, great question. Yes, you do have to list your place of residency when you are applying for your J1 visa through the iPortal. So we do need to list your current permanent legal address. And then also when you are listing the address that you would like for your documents to be sent to, you would also need to list that there as well.
Thanks so much, Argeria. Kaylin, we have a question about classes and wait lists. So this question reads, several courses that I want to take are waitlist only now. What are the chances of getting a waitlist place?
So unfortunately, that's going to be another, it depends. And that's basically at the department's discretion. So you could definitely reach out to the department. There is a list of department contacts. If you just Google UCSD department contacts, you can find the department of the course and reach out to their advising office and, ask them if they're adding spaces to the course or what the chances are that you'll get in. Unfortunately, The registrar's office doesn't control wait lists. A lot of people think that we do, but we don't. It's really at the department's discretion, unfortunately.
Thanks so much, Kaylin.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have some questions regarding, yes, a little bit more about iHouse. So Pachia, if you could talk a little bit about one, maybe if there's a word limit for iHouse applications, and two, when students might find out the outcome of whether they're able to live in iHouse.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So yes, there is a word count. So when you're going through and you're filling out your question or your answers for the questions, there will be a little indicator in the box that will tell you how many words you can submit. The iHouse application results or decisions will be sent out in mid-July. So definitely check your email at that time for more information.
Thank you. All right, Damian, we have a follow-up question. In terms of per unit, is there a typical time duration? So for example, if the student is quoted, let's say 1,200 per unit, is that likely to be per month, per week, or another time frame?
Yeah, I appreciate the follow-up question. I'm sure other people may have similar questions. The pricing that is posted on a website, whether that's one of the public platforms I listed or our off-campus housing website, it'll more than, I will say, about 90% of the time, it's going to be for a monthly price. It's unlikely that there will be postings for weekly prices unless they're specified. So unless a listing says we expect, I don't know, 1,200 per month, as you mentioned, or 400 or 300 per week. That's really unusual. I haven't seen many postings that will have something per week or longer. It's very, very rare to see a posting that wants a payment upfront for X amount of months. Usually you'll be expected to pay per month, even if you have a lease that's set up in a certain way. So really quickly, I'll say leases are the legally binding agreements to the amount of the rent that you're going to pay. So if you have a month-to-month lease, that means you're responsible for each month as it goes. And one more additional could be if you break your lease. If it's a 6-month lease, it means you're going to be responsible for 6 months of the payment of the rent for each month, meaning you would pay the agreed amount every month, but you're responsible for the total of 6 months. That doesn't mean you have to pay them up front. That just means you're expected to commit to those 6 months or a year, depending on what the lease is looking like. Again, if someone's trying to charge you $1,200 weekly, it's probably going to be a very, very luxurious place. And I would be extremely cautious just because those sort of arrangements are so uncommon that I would advise you to go for something else. Most everyone in the housing market is used to doing monthly payments, and that's the expectation of a tenant when they're looking to complete a contract. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. All right, so we have another on-campus housing question, and the student would like to know if the wait list for on-campus housing is typically first come, first serve.
Okay, so we do review the applications in the order that we receive them, but there are a lot of different factors that come into play excuse me, when we are looking at the open spaces and assigning students to those spaces. I'll give you one example. For example, if let's say the first person on the wait list has specified that their gender is male, and we go to our open spaces and the space that is available is gendered as female, then we would go down the wait list and go to the first applicant that has their gender as female. So that's one example. Another example is we try to house our students based by college. So those are just the different things. So while we do review them in order, I do encourage you to apply as soon as you know that you need housing, there are other things that we have to take into consideration as well.
All right, Argeria, we have another question about the J1 visa. So in terms of applying, do students also need to put a place of residence in the US? And if so, is there a recommended address?
Great question. No. So in terms of the iPortal application, we only need your legal permanent residence in your home country. You don't have to worry about putting a US address when applying for your document. When you arrive to the US and you submit your iPortal check-in form, at that time is when you'll have to indicate your US address. But through the iPortal application of requesting the document, there's no need to list a US address there.
Great, thanks so much. All right, another question regarding housing. So the student asks, so let's say we apply for iHouse when it opens. Would you recommend also joining the waitlist for alternatives on campus immediately, or waiting until we see if we can stay in iHouse first?
Go ahead and apply. What we recommend to our students is look at all the options that are available to you, and whether it's on campus, off campus, look at all of them. So even if you're applying for iHouse, go ahead and apply for that wait list. We just want to make sure that you have a place to live in fall quarter. So definitely look at everything.
Thanks so much. Okay, Argeria, we have another question regarding J1. So the student is wondering that, let's say they are not able to be issued their J1 visa until after the start date on their DS 2019, September 20th. Is it okay to come to the US later, let's say in October, and take classes remotely?
Oh, okay. So this is a pretty common scenario. We saw this happen a lot this past year, especially with embassies and consulates closing and have limited hours and resources. So for our fall 2021 admit students, you have until Friday of week 2 to enter the United States. So after that date, you unfortunately would not be able to enter, or it would be up to the discretion of the CBP officer to allow entry past the permitted date of arrival to the United States. So if you do find yourself in that scenario, you of course will have ISPO to help assist you through the process, and also have us for resources and support. And we will definitely be setting reminders about this deadline to enter the US, and then be providing guidance and resources if you do find yourself in a situation where you're still waiting for your visa and outside of the US for the fall 2021 quarter.
Thanks so much, Argeria. All right. So as a couple more, so just to let you know, we do have a few more minutes where we will be answering open question and answer. So if you do have a question, I encourage you to submit it now just to make sure we have time to answer that question. But I also would like to encourage you to, if you have any follow-up questions, or maybe let's say you have a very case-specific question, to reach out to our office individually. So I encourage my colleagues to put their contact information into the chat. If you need to reach out to ISPO, for example, about like your DS 2019 or your J1 visa, you can do so by emailing us at inewstudent@ucsd.edu or visiting our website, inewstudent.ucsd.edu. Additionally, we are so excited to welcome our students that we even created an Instagram filter. So if you want to celebrate the fact that you will be a Triton and you tag us, we will reshare that because we're so excited to welcome our new students. And so I'll just give a couple more minutes, but again, if you have any like really case specific questions, it's usually best to reach out to our office individually so that we can make sure to really speak to that specific scenario. And then we'll try to answer questions that apply to a general audience here today. So make sure we'll give a couple more minutes, see if any questions come through, and then we'll close our time together today. All right, so it looks like that is about it. I want to thank again my colleagues so much for taking time out of their day to be here with us and answer so many good questions. As a brief reminder, this webinar recording will be available on our website. So if you go to iwebinars.ucsd.edu, click on webinars for newly admitted students and then pre-arrival webinars, you'll be able to find actually all of the pre-arrival webinars that we've done. And usually we ask for about 2 weeks to make sure that we can edit and upload this webinar to that website as well. Hopefully you've copied some of the different email addresses so that if any questions come up in the future, you know who to reach out to. And again, congratulations on your admission and acceptance into UC San Diego for your exchange program. We are so excited to welcome you, and we are so excited to hopefully meet you soon in person. And with that, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.